Alrighty, so we are live on LinkedIn and Facebook. If you want to go ahead and tag yourself, Dr. Michael, you can. I will, um, I'll just go ahead and get us started. First of all, Dr. Michael, how are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm really, really excited for this opportunity. I know right now in New Jersey there are some flash floods and some tornadoes. So I just send
Yeah.
um, b- my condolences out to anyone and my prayers and support to all those that's affected.
Absolutely. Same, same on this end. My heart goes out to you. Please be safe. Safety is first. Safety is most important. So please keep yourself safe. Thank you, Dr. Michael, for bringing that up. So before we get started on our conversation, I'm gonna give a little background to how we met, and to how this came about, right? So I was invited to do a career day at School 26 and School 1 in Patterson. And when we got over to School 1, you kind of watched and you sat in on um my spiel, my little talk with the kids. And after the talk, you pulled me to the side, and I remember the first question you asked me was like, "Why are you not teaching?" And I was like, "Oh wow," because teaching and educating is definitely something that's on my heart. But with the way education is set up, I am not like a classroom person, so that's just not the route that I went. But it was so funny that you pulled me to the side because I'm like, I have a podcast program that I'm thinking about starting that I'm working on, and I want you to help me, and then I can help you, and we'll see how we can help each other. And that's how this came about. You got to talk to me about your upcoming book, and I'm like, well, yeah, I want to dive deeper with you. I want to help you. I want to talk to you about it. So let's do it. And you were just very open to whatever I kind of guided you on. You're like, yeah, let's do it, whatever. So thank you to being open. Thank you to for allowing me to like flex my interview muscles and to do more things on social media. And thank you again for just like pulling me to the side and having a conversation with me.
Well, I appreciate the moment of us having the chance to speak because sometimes when you have rare opportunities to meet gifted people, you have to take advantage of that. And I felt like
Yeah.
that's what I needed to do.
Yeah, I so agree. And we haven't done too much yet, but I absolutely see a grand future for the work we're doing. So I'm excited for
Absolutely.
that too. So let's go ahead and get into these questions. Let's get started talking about your book. But first, before we talk about your book and all that it's about, let's talk about you, Dr. Michael. So who are you and what do you do?
Well, I'm Michael DuBose, and I am a researcher. I am an educator, an artist, and a musician. I'm a plant dad. I have over 70 plants
Yes.
indoors, and I have some plants outside. So a lot of my time goes to nature and feeling rejuvenated and revigorating myself back into my core. And as an indigo child, I understand that you have to always reset yourself because the world is definitely a testing environment, and sometimes you just have to reset yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what do I do? Currently, I serve, as you mentioned earlier, as a school administrator in the capacity of vice principal. Prior to that, I served as the supervisor of elementary school counselors. At the particular time that I left, I was supervising over 43 school counselors. So, although it was challenging, it was definitely a humbling experience for me. And but within my experiences at Patterson Public Schools, I have some of the state's best students. I
Oh
have
yeah.
world class teachers, and I have fantastic parents who I collaborate with. So I'm very content and elated to be in a position that I'm in to just work with so many talented people,
Yeah.
whether it's a student, teacher, or family. And I am really grateful, especially with the climate in New Jersey where there are some school districts that are laying people off. I still have this opportunity. So I thank God and, I thank myself for just having the tenacity to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Resistance, right? To everything. To all
Yes,
those things, to all those outside things that are going on. And like you said, restoring yourself. I didn't know you were a plant dad. I'm a plant mom as well. I don't have as many plants as you. I'm not there yet. I had to let a few die before I could really hone my gift, I'll call it. But yeah, I'm a plant mom too. I love plants. I think that's a great way for you to restore yourself, just getting your hands in the dirt, seeing them
absolutely.
grow, right? You want to talk a little bit more about being a plant dad and how that helps you restore yourself?
Well, I think it really started from my grandmother and
Mm,
watching her have her small farm behind her house and
mm,
just her gardens and seeing her take the pride to garden. And then my mom and my dad in their home, they had a few plants, but it wasn't until we moved when I reached the high school level that my father really took his time and, started extending his knowledge to, you know, vegetables, planting
mm,
hot peppers, bell peppers, tomatoes, and squash. It was definitely impressive. And I just didn't realize at that time that it would be an interest to me. I've
mm,
always liked nature, but never knew that I would definitely dive into it the way that I did. And when I
mm.
got to college, I had a few plants. I don't know where they came from, but I had some, and I still have them to this day.
Wow.
So over time, with me working and getting plants from different coworkers and family members and students, I've collected some plants. I've even, you know, took small pieces of my parents' plants
Mm,
and propagated them into making them, adults now. And there are times when the plants die and it does hit an emotional chord.
yeah.
But it's the idea that it's when you love something and you're invested in something, you are going to feel that emotional tie
Yeah.
with it. So I do for my plants.
Yeah. 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 That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I didn't start planting until I was an adult. It's funny you talk about like, growing up and seeing your parents do, or your father specifically do things. And at that age, you said you were in high school, I believe. We just
Hmm.
take everything for granted. The things that are going on, then we usually just kind of take them for granted. This is life. Yeah, like it doesn't really matter. But usually we have those full circle moments where it's like, oh my gosh, I got this from my mom or my grandma or whoever, and it means so much to me now, even though it didn't really
It's
mean
the
as much
remembrance of
then.
it all, and it's just the
Mm,
values. I think for me, it did have a little greater of a value because I truly appreciate what my family have invested in
yeah,
because it has come to become an iconic part of our family, whether it was serving as sharecroppers or being educated. Um, those elements they stick with me because
yeah,
they are a part of me. So, I like to tell our young people that get to know your history so you can know where you're going. And
yeah,
for me, I understand where I'm going because I had those conversations and I listened. I
yeah.
listened with intent. And, you know, when my parents would tell me things, I made a point of keeping it in the back of my mind. It may not look to them that I was paying attention,
Mm,
but I really, really was.
yeah,
And I value, what they told me and the insights that they've given me because when you have to look against the outsiders and where
mm.
they are, it lets you realize how blessed you are when you realize that there are people who don't have as much as you have.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. When you're able to decenter yourself, right? Like I'm not the
Yes.
center of the world.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
talk more about growing up. Talk about young Michael. What was he like?
Oh, young Michael. Young Michael was very imaginative,
Okay.
a creative soul. And I like to think that I was very explorative and love to make discoveries and finding out new things about myself as well as people. I've always had a keen sense of observation,
Mm,
especially when it comes to psychology and sociology. But I think the true gifts that God has blessed me with was my parents. And I say that
mm,
because, again, they were very influential on my life, my family, but especially my mom and my dad. And here's
mm,
why. My dad is very special to me because he gave me the gift of music.
mm,
I remember being in the crib and hearing my father's band play in the basement, and they'll be practicing for gigs or shows or different performances.
mm,
And that music still resonates to me to this day because I'm always singing or I'm always thinking of different chord progressions or, trying to create music in my mind to eventually lay down some tracks. And, that definitely had an impact on my life. And so when we talk about musicality, my father was also my music teacher. So
mm.
he taught me how to play the clarinet and the saxophone, and eventually I learned how to play the piano. And so that application within itself, knowing how to read music, is still with me to this day.
Yeah.
And so, like when I'm thinking about my CD collection, I had over 500 CDs. My parents would give me allowance, and I would rather spend my money on CDs to get the latest music
Yeah.
rather than buying clothes. That's where my time really was in my
Mm,
room listening to music and singing and humming just to create some instruments
yeah.
to go with my songs. And I really had a good time doing that as a child. Now on the flip side, my mom, she was my artistic inspiration. She was very um adamant about being culturally centered.
Mm,
And we did that by going on vacations together as a family. We went to different islands and countries, and my mother made a habit of ensuring that we gained some sort of collection, some artifact from that
mm.
country, and then turned around when we got home, she would hang it. So it's whether a painting or a sculpture, they were in our house. And so I had, art to look at as a little boy and always feel inspired and always feel, influenced by just the multi-dimensional work that was in my home that
Yeah.
I was so blessed to have, because sometimes I can go to people's houses and the walls were blank, but that wasn't my case. My parents also exposed me to Broadway plays and musicals, and just having a life of understanding that there's more to this world than being in a home or in playing Nintendo. I got the best of both worlds from my parents. So
Yeah.
when we start talking about left brain, right brain, that is definitely me. Yes, I had the right brain side, but I also had the left brain side because my mom definitely ensured that I practiced my instruments and I got good grades. Like um, she was really serious about education. So
Yeah.
going back to my point earlier, she did not play with that. She recognized that it was difficult for her to obtain the education that she got, and she did not want the same for me. She wanted me to take full advantage of all the lessons that I retrieved as an adolescent, and she wanted me to be serious,
Yeah.
and I value that so much to this day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It sounds like being well-rounded was a value there. And I know growing up for me, that was definitely something I took definitely something I took for granted. My mom always talked about the importance of being a well-rounded individual. Okay, you see this new thing, try it. It's okay, just try it. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it again. But being able to try different things, right? You talked about traveling, like going to different places and seeing different cultures, realizing that everybody doesn't do things the way we do things in America, in New Jersey, in Patterson, right? So yeah, it's one of the values that was very much instilled in me. In education, definitely, you know, my mom, so she's been an educator for my whole life, and that is definitely one of the values she instilled in me. Education is important, right? And education doesn't always just mean like formal education, going to school, right? You can learn from anywhere. um so, talking about learning from anywhere, let's go ahead and get into your book and what it's about, because this is something I'm really excited to learn about, something you introduced to me, really. So, your book is titled "I Got This with Restorative Practices." So, first, let's talk about restorative practices, what they are, and how they can help educators, parents, students, all of that.
Well, restorative practices is not a program. It's not a task that you have to cross off your list of responsibilities to do. It's
Mm,
a philosophy, it is a way of life, it's a culture, it's a mindset. And so, what restorative practices essentially is the understanding of dialogic strategies to converse, talk, discuss your way out of problems. You're
mm,
using words to understanding how we can express ourselves when we are hurt or feel insulted, and finding solutions. And, the underpinnings to support the restorative practices consist of restorative statements, questioning, um, impromptu meetings, restorative conferences, restorative circles. So there are a lot of different approaches that you can use within the philosophy to uh, gain insight as to why someone is hurt.
mm,
And so, what I love about the philosophy itself is that it promotes stakeholder inclusivity, where we can allow various people within our support system to be there to helping us to get through an adverse moment with another person. So, for example, if I was teased, I would be the offendee, and the person who teased me would be the offender.
mhm,
So, both myself and that offender could have their support systems at this meeting to talk about the situation and find ways to move forward, to work towards forgiveness, to develop some reparation, understanding how we can move forward with reintegration, both for both myself and that person back into the populace. And furthermore, it must be stated that when when we are considering the uses of restorative practices in the school system, there is so much room for it because our schools, unfortunately, have been plagued with zero tolerance policies
mm,
or broken windows theories that pretty much institute exclusionary practices such as suspension, expulsion, transfers to alternative schools because the behaviors are so extreme that we're not looking to understanding the precipitating factors leading up to a student misbehaving in the way that they do. We're not trying to uncover those degrees of socioeconomical downturn that they may be experiencing, or the medicinal treatment that they may be under that could be psychologically impairing their judgment, or their family factors. We do have a lot of single parent homes. As you heard me talk briefly about my family, again, I was blessed to have been raised in a nuclear family. But when we look at zero tolerance, these are kids who are sent home and no one's there to watch them.
mm,
So the next step forward is something called the school to prison pipeline.
mm,
And that gets us in a placement where we don't really have any wiggle room for grace or a second chance. So there's a lot to be said about zero tolerance and broken windows theories, especially when we start talking about the disproportionality of students who are targeted There are certain groups
Mm,
that are targeted more than others for zero tolerance policies because they don't want to deal with the issues. They don't want to have to take time to work with those parents and, the crises that they may be experiencing. So
mm,
it's really unfortunate that, American school systems and school systems globally are implementing zero tolerance policies. But just know that we do have restorative practices. Not only can it be used at schools, it can be used at home. And
mm.
furthermore, the judiciary system uses something called restorative justice so that there could be an alternative to sending someone to jail or a detention center. It's expanding the options that we have.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It holistic is the word that comes to mind. It's just like a more holistic approach to um solving the problem, right? And not just slapping a band-aid on it, suspending the kid or, whatever the consequence is, right? Is not just a consequence, it's a more of a holistic approach to solve an actual problem, right? And I love that because growing up in the Patterson school system, it felt like that was just is just you do something, you get the consequence, and that's it. We're not digging it around, we're not investigating, we're not doing any of that. We're just, you get your consequence and you're expected to deal with it, and that's just the end of it.
Pink
And
Lady Jazz, let me just say
yeah.
this. What I feel like, especially when you just mentioned Patterson, it just kind of like struck a chord with me because if we were to take time to utilize the restorative practices, we would then have parents who can engage in shared responsibilities
Mm,
and be a part of the decision making when their child has misbehaved. Because sometimes if the school will just take a moment to maybe call the parent, invite the parent in the building, and let's have this conversation, or let's go in the classroom and observe why Michael is not behaving, or why he is talking back, or why there's a degree of indiscipline behavior types that's being observed, then we can foster a better outcome for Michael and to prevent recidivism.
yeah.
But when we take that power away and focus more on the zero tolerance, that's where we now limit the power of the parent as well as the power of the school, because now we're pushing it towards, eventually it's going to be pushed towards where we're giving the police officers the power,
Mm,
because zero tolerance is not just about suspension and it's not just about expulsion, it's also about policing,
mm,
having metal detectors, having drug sniffing dogs, having police officers stationed in the building. So why should they have all of this power to do what the schools traditionally have always done? They taught and they managed behavior. So we just have to just change our outlook and our optic when we're looking at the lexicon of discipline.
yeah.
How can we take measures to, one, pull, reel that power back to us, but also provide a sense of trust,
Mm,
safetyness, and partnerships with the stakeholders who we see on a day-to-day basis,
yeah.
which is our parents and our students.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. The devil's advocate in me is like, this sounds like more work for teachers. And I know we are not trying to give teachers more work. We know that our teachers are overworked. And I do want to mention that I just say Patterson because that's the school system that I grew up in. That I don't know about any other school system. So that's why I say Patterson.
No,
But
no, no, no,
yeah.
no. I'm glad that you said that. It's just, I think for me, just last year being a vice principal and having to work with parents and hearing their complaints and seeing how easy it was to work with them,
Mm,
how
mm-hmm.
cooperative they were when you just allowed them to have a voice.
Mm.
I think when you said that, I'm just like, yes. Patterson is about that. Let's work together life. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because it's a community of cooperation and collaboration, but you have to build that trust. You have to introduce yourself to them. You have to let them know you, you
Yeah.
know? And so I'm not a product of Patterson. I am a product of Jersey City, but I'm a service member to my fellow brothers and sisters at Patterson to let them know I'm not quick to suspend students, nor am I quick to call the cops on students
Mm,
either. I want to find that middle ground, and Patterson has allowed me to show them that I'm about that life.
yeah. Yeah, but you
Yes,
said it, it's the trust, right? Like you allow them to to see who you are, right? To see who you really are, not just administrator, right? Not just vice principal, not just teacher, not just your title, but you. And then we can trust you and then we can open up to you, right? So
absolutely.
yeah, that makes so much sense. So to go back to the devil's advocate question of, what do you say to people who think like, well, this is more work for teachers, like how is this better for us if this is more work for teachers?
As I mentioned in the exception of this interview, restorative practices is a mindset,
Mm,
right? And so sometimes we have to check our philosophical views when we come through the school door.
mm,
And so there are certain people who will have a more punitive mindset. We need to discipline. We need to call the parents. We need to kick them out of school. And then there are people who are going to work with the student population to understand what's the mental health of this student.
mm,
Does the student have an IEP? Is this student living alone or not having enough food to eat? Is this student not getting any attention from their families? We have to understand where we stand with that. Is it more work? It's more work to learn something new. It is. But it's work that our children need in order
mm.
to feel trusted
Yeah.
or to feel that sense of trust, as well as the families to also have that sense of trust between the school and them. Um,
Yeah.
Also, too, there's training. You know, Training helps you to become an expertise. Training allows you to be more effective in your role. It builds awareness. It builds, conscientiousness of any phenomenon. So if you were to embrace the training, it will help you to expand your understanding beyond the scope of discipline, but just on a psychological level.
Yeah.
Because not all discipline should be for minor behaviors. You know what I mean? And not
Yeah.
all discipline should be for major behaviors. You have to tailor these behaviors and align it accordingly, according to the intensity of the behavior. So when we're looking at zero tolerance, broken windows theory, and it's the one size fit all approach or the one stop shop, because I have a lot to do already and my desk has tons of reports to complete, a suspension is going to be quick and fast. That's not really getting to the root cause of why the behavior transacted in the first place.
Yeah.
So when you say to me that it's more work, I come from the school of thought that teaching is about adaptability and flexibility.
Mm.
The flexibility of the cognition to be able to learn and understand new concepts and to try them out to see if it's worth applying. And perhaps now we can certainly see some differences to the school culture, school climate. But when we stay in the status quo, nothing is going to change and everything is going to remain the same. That's what we want to do. We want to break those barriers. We want to break that fourth wall and say, you know what? We have children who are diverse in their backgrounds, in their demographic, and sometimes zero tolerance is not the right answer because we don't know everything, because we didn't seek to find everything.
Mm.
Restorative practices will allow you to know your students better and to build those relationships. You want a child to listen to you and to be engaged in a lesson, you have to strengthen those relationships. You want a parent that's going to be involved in their child's academic development and their social emotional wellness, you have to build those partnerships. It's all about, once more, shared responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think to add to that, this is something that if you're trained in, it could absolutely help you in your personal life, right? Like it's not just so it won't have to just be used for you in the classroom. I'm sure it could help in many other areas of your life. So that's a perk too, right?
That is definitely a true synopsis.
Mm.
And so, restorative practices is an approach that's for intrapersonal and interpersonal skill development,
Hmm.
right? And so, when we start looking at self help strategies, how do I feel? Using I statements. I feel sad when you tease me. I need to ask for your assistance because I don't understand. That's a self advocation,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, everything can't be so black and white. Everything can't be rush. And I do understand the concern that, learning a new philosophy and then trying to incorporate it can be a bit risky and a bit much. I already have a lot to do. I have 20 something kids in my classroom. I have to take attendance. I have to do data binders. I have to ensure that I have small groups. But at the end of the day, how are we going to see progression when we can't make just a little bit of changes?
Hmm.
Each year, believe it or not, we our district, whether it's Patterson, Jersey City, Newark, whatever, they undergo changes, whether it's through their curriculum or through their payroll or through their hiring process or through their vacation or buybacks. There's something new to adapt and to learn. This is one of those type of instances where you have to pick and choose. Is this really too much work for me? Or is this something that's going to be beneficial to me at the end of the day?
Yeah.
But see, to your point also, you need a good leader who can articulate
Mm.
what restorative practices is
Hmm.
and the values and the benefits and the advantages that it has in the school system, that it will have for relationship building between teacher to students to students, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So it's those conversations that just need to be a bit transparent and on point with gaining that buy-in from your teachers as well as from parents.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's talk about some of the benefits. Let's talk about why people should care about this at all. Talk and if you could talk about it from the parent perspective and from educator perspective.
Parent perspective is the idea that we can have open dialogue.
Mm.
We can really practice the media sensation. I listen, but I don't judge.
Yes.
So, and it's funny because statistics shows that parent involvement in schools starts to dip around middle school,
Mm.
meaning that parents are not as actively engaged
Yeah.
in their child's academic wellness or showing up to school initiatives like they were in K to 5 uh, branch,
Yeah.
right? So parents can feel assured that they have a child who's being open for discussion, learning how to tell the truth, and using pro social skills to, again, self advocate and to express themselves in a healthy, positive way.
Yeah.
I think, too, when it comes down to the home, it allows people to come together.
Mm.
Because if you remember, I distinctly said that restorative practices, it encourages stakeholders' inclusivity, the involvement.
Yeah.
So if I have my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, my aunt, my uncle at the table to help us to discuss an issue and to determine what's the best course of action, we're going to become a little bit closer.
Yeah.
We're going to
Yeah.
be more of a tribe. And see, that's the thing. Indigenous civilizations use restorative practices to solve problems
Mm.
rather than to use physical assault. Now, if there's a blow up, and sometimes families have those plights. They have those
Yeah.
situations where they're not getting along and things just go out of proportion. But at least when we are implementing it at the home, we can settle down. We can talk calmly.
Yeah.
We can use our voice to express ourselves. We don't have to worry about leaving and slamming doors because we're being heard. Because as the talking piece is going around, I can make sure that little Michael is being heard, mom is being heard, dad is being heard, and everyone else that's there. So everyone has equity in the part of speaking, the
Yeah.
power to speak, as well as the exchange, the power to actively listen.
Yeah.
At the school level, the school will benefit from having a more of an accountability sense for our students and teachers because first and foremost, when rules are built, the rules need to be built not just by the principal or the administrative team or the teachers. It should be a collaborative process
Mm.
amongst the student body, teachers, and administration. And now that way, the students will hold each other accountable because they've helped to structure and crystallize those rules. So
Mm.
now it's the fostering of togetherness.
Yeah.
We did this together. And so because we developed this set of rules, now we have a culture that's been harvested that we all have equal responsibilities to ensuring that is cultivating positivity,
Mm.
that is cultivating friendliness and diplomacy and respect.
Mm-hmm.
So now, if we are subscribing to the restorative practices approach at the school, when there's a problem, we can have conversations and express why we are upset or why did we walk out of Mr. Lee's classroom without permission, without feeling embarrassed or hesitant, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we can also face our fears when we did something wrong, right?
Mm.
And I want to also state this. Restorative practices is not just used on problems. It's used to continue the glue of sustaining stakeholders' connectivity.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is you're starting the day off with a restorative circle. How's everyone weekend? How's everyone feeling about last night's homework? Come on, share your feelings. Put your thoughts out there, right? If you're embarrassed about not completing it and you need another day, what should we do so that we can be on the same page of understanding this information?
Mm.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or after lunch, lunchtime it gets a bit rowdy. The kids are excited. They just came from recess. What is the best way to calming them down, but still have them engage in the subsequent lessons?
Yeah.
The restorative circles, right?
Yeah.
So it brings togetherness. It brings people to understanding each other in a more profound way that you couldn't really do under any other circumstance.
Yeah.
But the key to the restorative practices is fidelity, consistency, and open mindedness. You're never too good of a facilitator. There's always room to learn, just like a teacher.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really love this. It's like it's to me it's just so radical. Honestly, these are things that I like for specifically the like restorative circle you were talking about. I remember doing that in college. And it's funny because people think that middle school children are just they're too young, they won't get it. And it's just like, no, they are so much smarter, they understand so much more than a lot of times we give them credit for, give them credit for. And this is perfect to start in that like middle school. I don't know if it can start before, but I'm just thinking about the middle school age students. It's perfect for them. I work a lot with, building confidence and like using their voice. And this absolutely does both of those things, builds confidence to use their voice, to advocate for themselves, right? So This is really beautiful. I'm not going to take up too much more of your time because we are going to do a few more of these interviews. We're definitely going to do at least two more. And we're going to talk more. We're going to dive deeper into restorative practices and dive deeper into what your book is about. But my last question for you tonight is going to be, how does restorative, or how do these restorative practices, how do they serve the inner child? How do they serve little Michael and make him feel better?
Wow, that's a deep question. When I was about maybe 8 or 9 years old, I remember having a conversation with my grandmother, and she was like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I was like,
Mm.
"I want to be a doctor."
Okay.
And I was not sure how I was going to get there. And I definitely took a roundabout way and a couple of detours to getting there. But it wasn't until I finally reached the milestone of being able to apply for a doctoral program and getting accepted. It's like what you said earlier. It's the small things that matter.
Mm.
Um, the blessings was kind of like pushing me forward. It was just
Mm.
like, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
All of the chitter chatter, all of the distractions, this is what you are supposed to do. And it took me the longest time trying to understand what my research topic was going to be. Um, it was not an easy process at all because I have a lot of interests, and for me being so multifaceted, I just didn't know what to do. And so
Mm.
I was in the class one day and I heard someone talk about restorative practices, and it stuck with me. I don't know why, but it stuck with me. And I said, I'm not trying to copy this lady's idea, but I feel like I need to do this.
Mm.
And so when I did my own research on it, I was like, this is it.
Mm.
This is what I need to do my dissertation on. And so as I started carving out what the study was going to look like, how I was going to present it, how like what methodologies I was going to use to collect my data, it became very clear that this is essential work. This is important work, but the delivery of it is very complicated. It's
Mm.
scholarly writing. Some of the terminologies, jargon, syntax that I'm using is not as comprehensive as you would want it to be. And so after I concluded my study, I knew I had to find a way of getting it to the masses. And I always thought that for me, it would just be through education
Mm.
or through me counseling, right? I never thought about in a million years that I would write a book about restorative practices, and this is the way that children can understand how to be more tactful, more graceful, using, couth when they're talking, and pro social skills to get their points across, to express when stressors have impacted them. And when I wrote the book, first of all, this was a project that me and my mom was supposed to have done.
Mm.
We were supposed to write a book together, and we never had a chance to doing it because unfortunately she passed in 2017. But she was supposed to be the writer, and I was supposed to be the illustrator. Well,
Mm.
I took on both roles,
Yeah.
and I wanted to do it especially for that
Mm.
lady that's in heaven, because
Yeah.
I wanted her to know that her dream became a reality, and I'm very goal driven. So when I have my mindset on something, it will happen. And so as I'm conceptualizing about this book, I'm like, I have to write this book in a way that is going to attract children. And so when I was designing it and doing the illustrations, I wanted to make sure I had some vibrant colors,
Yeah.
some self-expression in there where the kids are smiling or sad and you can see
Yeah.
different action marks. I wanted kids to look at it not only as a token of artistic expression or relic of art, but I wanted them to take the substance from the story, and hopefully it was comprehensive enough for them to see that there are multi layers to the story where they can learn different parts, whether it's, restorative practices or building healthy relationships or using your words to speak. I wanted them to have something to feel inspired by, to say, you
Yeah.
know what, the next time I get into an argument, I'm not going to fight nobody, or the next
Mm,
time I feel sad or anxious, I'm not going to quit or cry or storm out. I'm going to give myself self empowerment so I can keep going because
yeah.
somebody believes in me and it's that author. That's
Yeah.
what I want kids to take away. So when you ask me, how does restorative practice impact my inner child? It's the full circle of it all. For
Yeah.
me to be able to make my reality of becoming a doctor really legend,
Mm,
right? It's
hmm.
really the reality that I'm living, but it's also the idea that the service that I'm giving to someone is helping Michael, because little Michael always loved helping people.
Mm,
So
yeah.
it's serving my heart and it's serving my spirit and it's serving the work that my parents and my families have allowed me to live up to, the expectations that they set forth for me, and understanding my my passion and my belonging, my what I'm designed to do.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, your purpose. Absolutely. Oh, this has been really great conversation. I love learning from you. Again, we're definitely going to be back at least two more times, so please stay tuned for that. Dr. Michael, is there anything else that you wanted to mention on this call before we get out of here?
I do. I want people to take away that love is a beautiful,
Mm,
beautiful feeling,
mm,
and we would not see the wars that we're seeing with the United States and Iraq, with Ukraine and Russia,
mm,
if we can talk sensibly and execute fairness.
mm,
Send your love, but send your words because your words have power.
mm,
There's no need to drop bombs. Just drop hints of hearts, and that will take you where you need to be.
mm,
Always.
mm. Mic drop moment for sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Pink Lady Jazz. You are the bomb
Absolutely.
diggity. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Absolutely. You're so welcome. And we're going to do it again. So I'll see you soon.
Yes, and be sure to find me on LinkedIn at Dr. Michael DuBose.
Yeah, I'm
I'll
going to
be more
tag
than
you
happy
for
to
sure.
connect with you and see what you're doing in your own respective fields and communicate. Thank you.
Absolutely. Bye.
Bye.